All right, happy Thursday, everybody. And boy, oh boy, do we have an episode for you today. First up, do you guys remember Lil RT? He was that 9-year-old. He was rapping about guns and sex on YouTube, and YouTube was like totally fine with it. Well, it turns out that he may have a white counterpart. Yep, she's made her debut singing along to Sexy Red. And I'm guessing this girl has to be about 4 years old. I mean, we definitely have to blur her face. Trying my best here not to lose hope for America as she raps across the internet. And speaking of sweet, precious little white girls, that is exactly how JoJo Siwa began her life. Remember, she was on Dance Moms. She was so precious. We loved her. But today, and really ever since she came out and announced that she was a lesbian, her character has definitely shifted. And today we've got her telling concert goers to lick her nuts. Yeah. But first, it's the conspiracy theory that never seems to go away. 9/11. Yes, the live chat yesterday was lit. They were demanding that we discuss it. And you know what? I'm a chronic people pleaser, so let's do it. All that coming up on Candace. Where were you on 9/11? I mean, if you're a millennial like me, the terrorist attack left an indelible mark upon your childhood. I know exactly where I was. I will never forget it. I was sitting in music class in my middle school, and principal came over the speaker and said, "A plane has hit a tower in New York City." And I will never forget what my music teacher said, Mr. Gregory. He said, "Why are they interrupting class to tell us this?" And then some time passed and they interrupted again over the speakerphone and said a second plane has hit a tower in New York City. And I want to be clear, I'm from Stamford, Connecticut, which means that many of the parents worked in New York City. It's very close, Stamford to New York City. They'd wake up, they'd take the train, and they would go to the city. So then a mass panic ensued. Parents started showing up, picking up students early. I left with one of my friends. And who could forget what happened thereafter? I think all across America, we were doing the same thing. We were huddled around televisions, waiting for the news to be updated minute by minute. In my household, we had one of those big, clunky, rather unfashionable big screen TVs, and we just sat there and watched. And I want to be clear, this was the land and the time before smartphones. There were no independent media voices that were offering reports. There was no Twitter. There was no social media on Instagram. And I think now, obviously, we appreciate how significant independent voices are, especially in times of high confusion. I mean, from COVID vaccines to Russia collusion, we now very much understand that the mainstream media is capable of getting it wrong and also capable of telling massive lies. So what immediately followed the September 11th terrorist attack was, as I reflect upon it in the retrospect, now that I'm an adult, a married mother, 35 years old, and my brain is developed, I recognized Soviet tactics of brainwashing that took place thereafter. I mean, every day, I was an 11-year-old child, 11-year-old, 12-year-old child, we were being told to stand for a moment of silence at 9:11 a.m. So picture little kids, 10, 11, 12, standing up for a moment of silence. And then over the speakerphone, they would tell us to think about and to remember the people that had died. Yeah, we were thinking about death every day at 9:11 a.m. A couple of years later, I entered high school, and my older sister's boyfriend made me watch a documentary. It was called Loose Change. I will never forget it. Never, ever forget it. I came out of watching that documentary, which I think if you looked it up today, it would say conspiracy theories about 9/11. But irrespective of how they want to categorize it, at the very least, you came out of it recognizing that not everything was told to the public about that day. Don't need to go too far, but there's no question that we were not told everything about that day and that many questions were not being answered. I mean, some of the things that we were even told make entirely no sense. For example, we were told that the terrorist attacks were executed by the Saudis, remember? Which totally explains why we then decided to go to war with Iraq, who had weapons of mass destruction that were never found. And who can forget how the newscasters told the public that they were definitely sure that it was the Saudis? Don't remember? Let's revisit it. Let's go back to 2001 And watch this clip from our trusted news source, CNN. Take a listen.
Another development on Saturday, New York officials revealed at a news conference here in the city that a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that. No other details were given, but the discovery prompted the FBI and police to expand the search area down in Lower Manhattan.
I like how even the newscaster says, if you can believe that, because nope, I refuse to believe that, and you should not either. You are telling me that somebody hijacked a plane, got onto the plane, crashed the plane exploded into fire, tower collapsed. They could not even find all of the human remains. But in all of this, in all of the fire, in the collapse of the building, and all the dust, in all the struggle, they found, and didn't give any details of how or who found it, a passport. The little paper passport survived everything. And they go, oh, well, look, this is one of the hijackers. This is one of the Saudi hijackers. He must have dropped his passport from the sky before he flew the plane into the building, and somehow they couldn't even find the audio boxes, the black boxes from the plane, but they have the passport. So here it is. Yeah, nope, not going for that. Then, of course, there are those who believe that 9/11 was an inside job, a false flag event. And those people are deemed the craziest because how dare they? How dare they question that narrative? How dare you think that your government could be involved in a false flag attack at all? Well, let me tell you something, sweetheart. You don't have to believe that 9/11 was an inside job, but you better tether yourself to the understanding that false flag events are a reality. Not an imagination, not a conspiracy theory. It is a reality. And you want to know how we know that? Well, you can just look this up on Wikipedia if you don't believe me. Because a former sitting president who was subsequently assassinated in the back of a car next to his wife, JFK, he refused to sign off on a false flag event. The CIA came to him. This is called Operation Northwoods. You should look this up if you think that I'm making this up. The CIA came to JFK. And they said, we have an operation. We want to go to war with Cuba. Okay. And he said, we have some ideas of how we're going to get the American public on our side, how we're going to get public sentiment to shift so that they want war. And what we think we should do is stage a false flag event, pretend that Cuba is attacking America when in reality it's not. It's really us. One idea that they floated was a fabricated shoot down of a U.S. Air Force plane. They also floated blowing up a U.S. ship. And other ideas that they had were just to orchestrate a series of terror attacks on United States citizens. They thought maybe in Miami, maybe in D.C., we'll just start killing people and blaming the Cubans. And JFK said, this is maniacal. I absolutely will not sign off on a false flag event against American citizens in order to get them to agree for us to go to war with Cuba. So, yeah. Those things do actually happen in the world. And there were plenty of Americans who thought that it was, at the very least, incredibly suspicious during 9/11, shortly thereafter, when this segment ran, also back in 2002, on ABC News as an update to a prior segment that they had done. Take a listen.
In the days after the September attacks, there were countless rumors about strange coincidences surrounding the events. One report about a group of Middle Eastern men spotted the morning of September 11th parked just across the river from New York City has not gone away. Investigation of their presence has led to questions about whether Israel was conducting espionage on U.S. soil. We're joined now by ABC's John Miller with an exclusive report this evening.
That's right, Elizabeth. This is a case that took the FBI and the CIA more than 2 months to sort out, while 5 Israelis waited in jail. It began when this woman was watching the Twin Towers burning from her apartment in New Jersey. She noticed 3 men on top of a van, posing for pictures with the towers burning in the background.
And I could see that they were like happy. You know, they didn't look shocked to me. You know, they didn't look shocked. I thought it was very strange.
The witness called police, who stopped the van hours later and arrested 5 men. All 5, it turns out, were Israeli. They were turned over to the FBI. Sources tell ABC News during a check of national security databases, some of the men were listed as having had connections with Israeli intelligence. At the FBI, that set off alarm bells. The FBI needed the answers to 3 important questions. Who were these men? What brought them to that parking lot on the morning of September 11th? And did they have any advance knowledge of what was going to happen that day? The men said they were just taking pictures at the time. They said they worked for a company called Urban Moving. The FBI obtained a search warrant for the company's offices.
2 SUVs were filled up with between 9 and 12 boxes and computers.
Not long after the arrests, the offices of Urban Moving were simply abandoned. Almost everything was left behind. In jail, the 5 Israelis were repeatedly interrogated and given lie detector tests. Stephen Gordon was their American lawyer.
They were asked questions if they had ever been approached by or hired by any non-United States intelligence community.
While there is still some debate among American intelligence officials, many investigators believe some of the men were part of an Israeli operation aimed at monitoring radical Islamic charities that support groups like Hamas, something lawyers for the 5 men and the Israeli government strongly deny.
These 5 Israelis were not involved in any intelligence operation in the United States. The story is simply false.
In the end, the FBI concluded there was no evidence that any of the 5 men had advance knowledge of the September 11th plot. After 71 days, the 5 Israelis were deported, leaving some ruffled feathers among both U.S. and Israeli officials.
All right, guys, so nothing to see there. Obviously, you'd be a conspiracy theorist if you had any questions about that. You actually would be worse. You'd probably be anti-Semite if you had any questions about a foreign government overseas that had people who were attached to their intelligence apparatus who were celebrating and taking photos as the towers burned and American citizens were dying. Yeah, don't be any of those things. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about it first and foremost because America forever changed after 9/11. We, in my view, stopped being a free country. For fear, we gave up freedom. It's really difficult to imagine the world prior to 9/11. Imagine people that were just able to go to the airport, were not treated like they had done something wrong, didn't have to take their belts off and their shoes off and their quarters out of their pockets, and they just simply got on the plane. Yeah, we don't have it anymore. In fact, they collect even more information. Now they want to take your photo. We're all a suspect now. They essentially used our paralyzing fear and the media and the school system, stand up, the indoctrination, remember the people that died, to jam through the Patriot Act. We're also talking about this because they used that same fear to throw us into more endless wars in the Middle East. And if you remember those fear tactics as vividly as I do, then you might be looking around and recognizing a very familiar playbook. You're a terrorist sympathizer if you don't like bombs and war and dead people and my gosh, the Muslims, they're bad. Yeah, no, I'm none of those things. What I am actually is an American, and I have questions. And while speech is still free in this country, I intend on asking them, because what could possibly be more American than that? All right, guys, on that note, do you want to know the real reason that most Americans don't want war? It's actually a pretty simple reason. It's because a lot of us are struggling to keep up with everyday bills, food, gas, and even that power bill. If you own a home, then here's what I want you to do. I want you to call my friends at American Financing. Interest rates have dropped into the 5s, which is nearly a quarter of the average credit card rate. American Financing is saving their customers an average of $854 a month by tapping into their home's equity and wiping out high-interest credit card debt. And just to be clear, $854 a month is like a $10,000 a year raise. Credit card interest rates are insane. We all see that. And most of us are still carrying a balance from month to month. So call American Financing and take care of it today. And if you call today, you may not have to make next month's mortgage payment. American Financing. Call 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or you can simply visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, guys, it's time to get into some stories. We've got some crazy ones today. But at first, if you are watching this, I want to remind you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are so close to 2 million. It could happen any week now. And I also want to remind you, if you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple, subscribe, like us, write something nice about us. You can also support us, of course, on locals.com and keep this show free. Let's get into some stories. All right, so I'm reminding you that I had a little bit of a rap battle. I have many rap battles. It's me, it's Cardi B, it's me versus Lizzo. I think that's like a singing battle. And recently, it was me versus Lil RT. Lil RT was a 9-year-old who sort of exploded on the internet because, well, he's got a potty mouth. That's the truth. Lil RT has got a potty mouth, and he dropped this video and people were debating whether or not this was great, that he had become a rapper who, by the way, is illiterate. According to the internet, he can't read, but he is rapping about having some hoes. I'm going to quickly jog your memory with a clip from his debut music video. Take a listen. Now, I would apologize for having to play that on the show, but I'm pretty sure it was just beep, 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 because, I mean, what's going on? How could any adult think that this is a good idea to have a young man who cannot read but is rapping about what he's doing with girls that he should definitively not be doing with girls? I mean, to me, it is a pipeline to prison. You know, I get criticism. Oh, why are you so focused on Black America? I am an equal opportunity offender. I cannot keep reminding you guys enough of this. If you're watching the show, maybe you're watching it in Africa, maybe you're watching it, we definitely get a lot of people watching in South Africa, Zimbabwe. If you're in the UK, it doesn't matter who you are, what race you are, you will be offended by me if you are up to no good. And so, of course, I was on the internet and I saw a young girl, and honestly, she's so young that we're going to blur out her face because this is just sad to me. Okay. She looks to me to be about 3 or 4 years old, and she is singing on the internet and receiving applause because she's rapping to Sexy Red's song aptly entitled, Looking for Hoes. Take a listen.
Make them hoes mad. Show me how you her baby dad. Yeah, 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 yeah. Bitch, shake that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you missed the lyrics and you are as disheartened as I am that any adult would record their young child speaking like that. But I'm going to tell you what the lyrics say. Quote, it ain't my fault that I F better than your bitch. I'm so effing sexy. You can't even fake it. I can't even read the next line. It's literally too disgusting. I will not read it on this program. Followed by shake that beep, bitch, make them hoes mad. Show me how you bleep her baby dad. I mean, I can't even, this is again, looks to be about 4-year-old that is dancing. And remarkably, someone over the caption just writes, I hope this is my kid. Like, I hope this is my kid someday. I hope that my kid also knows how to rap to Sexy Red by the time she is a toddler. I really hope she's able to learn that. I mean, what is actually going on? When I talk about on this show about the psychological programming, about how they mine quote unquote talent, and in reality, what they are mining are people that they believe present themselves in a manner that is so low and so debased and so low frequency that if they put them on the airwaves and artificially turn them into celebrities, the next generation of children will begin to mimic them, right? This is a true, definitive psychological program. It's been studied for decades. Entire institutes dedicated to see how you would react if we turned someone artificially into a celebrity, if you would think they were cool. And Sexy Red is an example of that. And I don't mean that. Disrespect Sexy Red. She's just not the most talented person, right? She is not the best that Black America has to offer. And she must know that. And so she's on the airwaves. And now you have this young girl who should be trying to figure out puzzles, should be learning her ABCs, how to spell her first name. I'm going to go ahead and guess that she, like Lil RT, is illiterate because she would be quite advanced if she wasn't illiterate. And she is instead speaking like she wants to be pregnant by the time she's 14. I mean, as a society, we just have to do better than this. And when I say we, I mean the people in the comments that are applauding this, saying, I hope my child turns out like this. Yay, I hope I put my child in the pipeline to prison. It's going to be so great. For a couple of likes on Instagram. They can see I'm a cool mom, like Mean Girls. I'm a cool mom. Yeah, no, I'm not a cool mom. Nope, not a cool mom. Don't even count me as a cool person. Don't think it's cute. Don't think it's funny. And personally, think that CPS should be examining this home, right? Just what is going on here that this is what your daughter is learning, and you're also putting it on the internet like there aren't complete creeps on the internet who would enjoy her speaking in such a derogatory manner about sex, because that is what she is speaking about. That little girl is speaking about sex, and it is awful. Anyways, you guys, we need to go back to a society where we don't even speak like that, where people think it's unfashionable to even talk like that. We need to return to a society where there is a more pure form of talking. Which brings me, by the way, to Pure Talk. You guys know those are my friends, great sponsors of this show. And you want to know what I appreciate about them? They are a brand that is not afraid to stand by me, who allows me a platform to speak my truth, what I view to be the most important issues that we face as a country. And that's why I am so happy to say that Pure Talk is still my wireless company. If you have not yet made the switch, I encourage you to do so now. Pure Talk puts you on America's most dependable 5G network and offers unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $20 a month. So why would you still be with Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile when you can quite literally get the best coverage, 100% of a U.S. customer service base, and your family can save up to $1,000 a year while also supporting American jobs? It's also a U.S. veteran-led company. And there are great charities that they also support, like America's Warrior Partnership, who are on the front lines of preventing veteran suicide. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Owens, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month when you make the switch today. Again, go to puretalk.com/Owens and support a wireless company who shares our values. All right, guys, moving on. Jojo Siwa, I always say her last name wrong. Well, it's an important update. She thinks she has nuts. I don't know. I just got to tell you that right away. Jojo Siwa thinks she has nuts. So I've been following her story because I liked Jojo Siwa a lot. She was so cute on Dance Moms. She had the bubbly personality. You know, she wasn't the number one dancer, but she was definitively she had the best personality. Like it was no doubt that young girl was going to be a star. The cameras loved her, and the star she became. She started her own YouTube show. I think she even dropped some music, and all of the young girls loved her, and she wore a big ponytail or big bows in her hair. And everybody's parents had to suddenly be paying attention to this young girl on YouTube that their children loved. And then things change, and obviously people go through adolescence. And when you go through adolescence, you're trying to be different. And like I said, you know, back in the day, in the 80s, everyone was smoking cigarettes. And then they came after big tobacco with an ad. You know, the adolescent kids were skipping school to smoke cigarettes. And then that ended. They really put an end to that, I would say, probably in the 90s. They said smoking is not good. So what do they pick up instead? Well, I think one of the things they picked up was gender ideology, trying to be different, trying to experiment with their sexuality. And everyone is something. That's all I'll say, something. Maybe you're non-binary, maybe you're a lesbian, maybe you're gay, maybe you're transgendered, maybe you are intersex. There's a lot of letters in there. And Jojo Siwa came out and she says that she's a lesbian. She doesn't like guys. Okay, fine. I mean, my question is, why does sexuality have to dictate a certain personality? Which is to say that I'm heterosexual, right? There is not a prototype for what it means to be heterosexual, what personality you must embody as a heterosexual person. But more and more, there does seem to be these sort of stereotypes that people feel they instantly have to lean into when they declare themselves to be a lesbian or when they declare themselves to be a gay man. And Jojo Siwa is kind of embodying a stereotype of what we think about when you confront a lesbian. Like, you know, again, this is a stereotype. This is not every lesbian does not embody this, but she is becoming a stereotype. And so here she is. She posted this on her TikTok. Take a listen.
I'll come back like a boomerang. Tell the haters to lick my nuts.
In case you didn't hear her, she said, tell the haters to lick my nuts. There we go. You go, girl. And people applauded. They said, whoa, you got those haters. They're going to lick your nuts or something. What are we even applauding? Please just go back to being confident in who you are, because that is not how I read what you are doing. I read somebody who is unfortunately has a big platform and has to go through those growing pains with a big platform and doesn't actually feel secure in who she is, I would welcome a conversation with JoJo Siwa. I would love to have her on the show. Please do not take offense, but just remember that there are tons of young girls that are following you and they are believing in you before I believe you even know who you are. And lastly, we have former CNN host Mark Lamont Hill. Now, Mark Lamont Hill and we have an interesting background. He came on my show when I was on PragerU, and we heavily debated the transgendered issue. And, you know, people made fun of him on the internet for not being able to say what a woman was or what a man was or what the differences were. And so we're definitely not on the same side of the political aisle. But you know what I think? I think Mark Lamont Hill, you won't admit it, but I think over the years, I've turned him into a Standis. I think so. I think there are, and he will say this in the clip that I'm going to show you, at least some aspects about my personality and my grit that he appreciates. And so I wanted to just very quickly show this clip that he did on his personal YouTube page because I saw it and I was actually very grateful that he was commending our success. So take a listen.
So they thought that they could break and destroy Candace Owens. And instead, she's on Piers Morgan this week. She's on YouTube. She's trending on Spotify, Apple, all this stuff. Now, let me be clear. This is not an encouragement to go out and believe what Candace Owens believes. I don't believe what Candace Owens believes. And I don't think you should watch stuff that is objectionable. But I got to tell you, everybody has a right to free speech. Everybody has a right to put their ideas in the public square and let the best ideas win. And they were trying to silence her ideas. So the fact that she not only didn't get silenced ultimately, but she came up and is beating the very people who they thought could control her voice because of their footprint. There's something good about that. There's something, no, let me just say good. That's not the right word. There's something poetic about that. There's something just frankly hilarious about that.
Thank you, Mark Lamont Hill. I really appreciated that. And it actually, there's more gratitude that should be shared here. It is not just because of me and my determination, but really it's because of the people back at home that watch this show every single day all across the world. Obviously, the live chat, we're always going crazy trying to get 10K watching live. You guys believed in me. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have a platform if it wasn't for each and every one of you. You guys went to clubcandace.com and bought your Standis mugs, which, by the way, we should be shipping those out within the next 2 weeks. So just stand by as we have a lot of orders that we are filling, and you guys are basically investing in a startup. We didn't know how this was going to go, and it is going amazingly. So I just kind of wanted to wrap before we get into comments by just telling you from the bottom of my heart how grateful we are. You know, the whole team, we are just so grateful that you stood by us through those turbulent times. All right, now jumping into some of your comments regarding episodes past. Now, we talked about pornography. It's obviously it's obviously very bad, and yet there are people that are completely brainwashed and think that it's a matter of free speech. Like, obviously, that's not free speech. People just having sex on a camera is not a matter of free speech. Though this person writes, I never watched porn because my father told me that's some father's daughter. And if you watch it, you shame her, him, and the whole family. Wow, that's powerful. From conversations with friends, I've learned that advice saved me a whole lot of heartache too. Wow, that is, I'm very glad that you shared that. And it's something that people should maybe say to their sons when they're growing up because they are exposed to it. And it is very true. It saves you a lot of heartache, especially as a man. As I've said, men are wired differently. Well, this person has a disagreement. Vic writes, I'm a big fan of Candace, but I don't agree with banning things like pornography, and I do indeed see it as a slippery slope. If we ban porn because it's harmful, there are many other things that will eventually be banned for that reason. If we care about freedom, we have to care about the freedom for people to do things we don't agree with to at least some degree. Yeah, I think it's the exact opposite. I mean, people act like we lived in a society that there was always pornography. There wasn't. And that's why I said we need to do an episode, which I think I will try to do next week, where I take you through the history of pornography in this nation. It actually is the opposite. The slippery slope theory has been proven true, that because of pornography, we are now suffering from a variety of different ills. It is impacting families. It's impacting relationships. It's impacting men. Men have addictions. It's impacting human sex trafficking. So the slippery slope, you're right. It is a theory that has proven true. But our society was functioning just fine with an understanding that this is not an example of free speech. We are the people that are offering their bodies on the internet and readily accessible to young children who stumble upon it. That is not an example of free speech. In fact, what it actually is obscenity. And the founding fathers of this nation never had a viewpoint that obscenity was a matter of speech. Next comment is from Treasure Rainey. This person writes, porn is so hurtful to families. My first husband was completely addicted. We got married and I had no clue how deep the addiction went. We went months without being intimate because he was looking at it, and how he treated me and acted would change when he did. It also affected his ability to be intimate when we did. All of this led to him cheating on me multiple times, and then he left me for another woman when I was pregnant. He married that woman and fast forward several years, left her for another woman, and I truly believe he never stopped looking at it. That is correct. And not only is it an addiction for men, it's also an addiction that brings them great shame. This is why people don't watch pornography in the daytime while they're just on the train. It brings them shame. They know it's wrong. They know that that is not real intimacy. They know that even their view sets on intimacy are being debased by pornography. And yet, of course, there are biological and psychological impulses that make them continue to engage in it. And we're not going to be able to fix this as a society unless we get real about it. I am a stan when it comes to the idea of banning pornography as best that we can. All right, guys, this last person writes, how can Cardi is a porn stan, say that, but then when it comes to her gross song, she doesn't let her daughter listen to it? Imagine porn, which is way worse. Like, you're a mother, and if you can't even let your kids listen to your stuff, why make them see it? It's a very good point. What she's referring to there is the fact that Cardi B notoriously was on Instagram, and her song, she was bopping to one of her songs, and her daughter came in the room, and then she instantly turned the song down. Like, my daughter's too young to listen to this. And Cardi's defense was like, well, I'm a mother, and I'm making those decisions, and so I can stop her from listening to this. And yeah, it's a bit ironic. It's like, no, you can only be with your kids so much. Eventually they go to school. Some other kids' child has a phone. We just showed you in this episode, Lil RT, and then the little 4-year-old girl who's rapping the Sexy Red. Those are the children that your children are going to encounter in the real world, whose parents are going to give them cell phones and let them listen to this trash. So to put the onus on parents and say like, oh, well, you got to be able to stop it from happening. No. Let's make good, moral, righteous decisions as a society and say that these aspects are damaging to us as individuals, to us within our relationships, to us in our relationship to God, to our faith structures, and also, of course, in all throughout society. Lastly, I have this comment from Manect. It's my favorite app right now because I get to talk to you guys. I actually have not yet answered this person. I'm going to do it as soon as the show is over. This person wrote to me, hi, I have so much to say to you. First, I have been watching your videos for well over a year now. I used to be a leftist, but since watching your videos, I had done a complete 180. You always lay out the facts, and once you, as in the viewer, start to accept that what you're talking about is the actual truth, it makes you step back and think. Second, I am a Christian, Armenian, so when I watched your interview on Piers Morgan, I was in shock. I appreciate you bringing awareness to the situation in Armenia. It is clearly not, quote unquote, cool or mainstream to support or speak out against genocide against Christians. Third, I live in a city that is majority Armenian, and we are in LA County, but our city is so clean and safe, and it's thanks to conservative Armenians. I promise you we exist. Fourth, I am in law school, and my school pushes leftist agendas. It is so frustrating as someone who does not believe in it. Lastly, if there's ever a way I can be employed by you from LA, please let me know. God bless. These comments like this make me so happy. It shows us that we're making a difference. So it doesn't really matter what the media says, calling us crazy and racist and sexist and conspiracy theorists and every ism. We're making a real impact. People are cleaning up their lives because we have the courage to talk about these issues in a way that most people, when they hear it, I believe this, when people hear truth, they have a response to it. You can break through the lies if you keep insisting upon the truth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time that we have for today. Again, if you want to support the show, you can head to locals.com and become a monthly donor, an annual donor, or you can simply just pray for us because I swear the prayers are keeping us safe. Also, you can head to clubcandace.com. And if you are still waiting for things to ship out, just give us a couple of more weeks. I promise we are completely on it. We're still in startup mode and figuring this thing out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.